A lot of times, the only way to get better at doing the thing is by doing the thing. Yes, it's important to have skills, but skills are built through reps. And what is that? Do we tell ourselves we're too busy to do the work? Do we tell ourselves we're not skilled enough to get the results that somebody else gets? Do we tell ourselves it has to be perfect before we start and we're not going to start doing the phone calls until we learn the 176 objection handlers that we need to know? And then you get on the phone and the first person you speak to comes up with that 177th one that you've never heard before. Second problem we have is, particularly in real estate, as we work in sales cycles. We do the work today, and quite often we don't see the fruits of our labor for 30, 60, 90 days into the future. If you're able to keep doing the thing without seeing the results of the thing, you will be more successful than 98% of people in real estate, because everybody gives up at the moment before they see success.
Okay, Rich Tomasini, take us out.
Nice to meet you, Ross. That was a very earnest lesson for us. Thanks for sharing. I guess I have sort of a bifurcated question. Number one is, what are you going to do after you're number one in Florida? What happens after that? Because you'll move the needle and then you'll move the milestone probably if you're anything like the rest of us. Number two is, how do you prevent burnout for your team? Because obviously their income is correlated to their performance. They can have great years, but what's their long-term play on that? And how do you kind of psychologically guide them through those dark moments when January, right?
Yes, absolutely. First thing is, what's beyond number one in Florida? It's a great question.
All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to Survive to Thrive. We are thrilled to have our guest speaker, Ross Hardy, with us today. I met Ross in 2010, same time I met his father, amazing man, Alan Hardy, when I went to work for Remax Realtech in Palm Harbor, Florida. And I was impressed by these guys then. I'm even more impressed now. Ross is running a team here in Florida that currently, or last time he and I spoke anyways, had 80 properties under contract, which is absolutely incredible. He is a national speaker, has been on several stages. He is also a coach, a good friend. I'm really glad to have you here. I'll tell you how important this call is, Ross. I've been business partners with Richard Tomasini, who's on the call with us today. Hey, Rich. And in 3 years, I think this is the first Survive to Thrive call that Rich has been on. So I had to bring in one of the top real estate agents for Remax in the United States to get Rich to be on the call with us this morning, but just giving you a little bit of a hard time, Rich. Sorry. And Ross, here's what I want you to do. I'm just going to turn the floor over to you. You're free to talk about anything you want to talk about. Right about 9:25, maybe a little sooner, because I imagine we're going to have several questions for you. We'll stop and we'll turn it over to the audience to ask questions, but the floor is yours, my friend.
I love it. Thank you so much for inviting me, John. I just want to say, I've always valued our friendship. I will tell you, in my formative years, you were an inspiration to me, just with your singularity of focus on doing the right things every single day, regardless of what else is going on in your life. Something that I still drill daily into the agents on my team is a huge component of the success that we have. So I want to thank you for being the inspiration for me at a time when I was on the come up. Never forgot it, and really happy that we've reconnected recently. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So I'll give you my little brief synopsis in my career in real estate and some of the things that have helped me along the way. It's funny, when you condense 21 years of real estate down into about 5 minutes, it actually sounds kind of impressive. It feels less impressive when you're slugging away day after day after day doing the grind over 21 years. But what invariably happens is, and I've been a victim, I guess, of this recently, is that people will turn around and say, man, you're like an overnight success. It's like, yeah, just 21 years doing the grind, happened overnight. But I moved here from the UK in 2004. In September of that year, got into business with my father doing real estate, had about 12 months of just magical Florida real estate back in 2005, if any of you guys remember the market back then. And then we all know what happened in 6, 7, 8, and subsequently after that. And had to pivot my career at that point to focusing on short sales, which, as someone mentioned, is making an ugly reappearance again, unfortunately, in Florida. But we deal with it regardless. And then really started focusing on growing the team in 2012, around about the time that my family acquired Remax Realtech, where John was at the time the number one Remax office in Florida. And my passion was always in trying to grow human beings. And what it really forced me to do during that period of time was have a lot of self-examination in myself. I think that we're really, really good at spotting the flaws or the great qualities in other people. And we're really, really bad at recognizing our own strengths and our own weaknesses. You know, you can watch someone else do the same thing as you, and you can be like, man, I'm glad that's not me. And the self-awareness just isn't there. So unfortunately, back then, had a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol, went through a divorce, kind of scraped along the bottom for a little bit, and was able to pull myself back out of it with just some really, really harsh truths about myself. And then when I turned 40, 5 years ago, we'd always had a very successful real estate team, always closing around 150, 160 deals a year. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm 40 years old, had kind of a crisis of being. And I'm like, what am I going to do for my final big push in life? I feel like Tom Brady, you know, I've got one more ring left in me. What am I going to do here? And so I started on the journey to build the number one RE/MAX team in Florida for transactions closed. And last year we were number 5 in the state for transactions closed. This year we will likely close 420 deals, which will be about probably about an 80% increase on last year. And we will probably break the top 3. So really, really excited to be on that journey. Here's some things that I've noticed along the way, and I want to share these with you guys. I love that video John played because I recognize so many of the tidbits that I've picked up along the way. First of all is it really starts with the mindset, because we all work in the same market. I think we all know that this is probably one of the toughest resale markets for a lot of people in Florida. Certainly in the 21 years that I've been doing it. You know, we have interest rate fluctuations. They are much higher than they were 2 or 3 years ago. And of course, we all have that recency bias where we only remember what happened recently. You know, home prices went up 59% in Florida over that time. At the same time, the interest rates rose and wages haven't kept up with that. There's never been a less affordable time to buy a home in Florida. Last year, there were just over 4 million homes sold compared to 6 million back in 2021. So we can look at all of those things and give ourselves an easy ride and say to ourselves, well, of course I'm not doing great in this market because the market's not doing great. And yet there are people out there who are crushing it and just increasing their business year over year over year over year.
That's right.
So what's our excuse for not doing it? I think we give ourselves these limiting beliefs and tell ourselves that we're not capable of doing it. And one of my mentors, a guy called Dustin Runyon, calls it your favorite flavor of avoidance. And what is that? Do we tell ourselves we're too busy to do the work? Do we tell ourselves we're not skilled enough to get the results that somebody else gets? Do we tell ourselves it has to be perfect before we start and we're not going to start doing the phone calls until we learn the 176 objection handlers that we need to know? And then you get on the phone and the first person you speak to comes up with that 177th one that you've never heard before. And all of that time that you just spent preparing is for nothing. And, you know, what it tells us is a lot of times the only way to get better at doing the thing is by doing the thing. Yes, it's important to have skills, but skills are built through reps. And, you know, I equate it to learning a language. I did 7 years of French back in the UK, considered myself very, very good at it, and then went to France one summer and realized that nobody there had a clue what I was saying because you learn classroom French. It's not what's used in the real world. And so a lot of times we'll over-prepare, try and get our skills exactly as we want them to be, prep ourselves beautifully, wait for the perfect time, and find out if we'd just been doing the thing over and over and over again, we'd be so much better. And another great example of this is there's a story about a professor or teacher who gave a pottery class an assignment. And one half of the class, he said, I want you to make as many pots as you can. Come back at the end of the semester and let's give us your best one. And in the other half of the class, he said, I want you guys just to make one pot, and it has to be the perfect pot. Obsess over it, make sure it's beautiful, make sure it's perfect. And lo and behold, the ones who submitted or the ones who made, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pots come back with a pot that's way better than the ones who obsess over making the perfect one. So nothing is a replacement for just doing the work. Second problem we have is, particularly in real estate, is we work in sales cycles. So we do the work today, and quite often we don't see the fruits of our labor for 30, 60, 90 days into the future. Being able to do something without immediate gratification in the days of microwave meals and 2-day Amazon Prime delivery is a superpower. If you're able to keep doing the thing without seeing the results of the thing, you will be more successful than 98% of people in real estate, because everybody gives up at the moment before they see success. I can guarantee you the number of people who you look up to and say, man, I wish I could be them, are doing nothing different than you're doing. They're just doing more of it for a longer period of time. There's really no magic bullet to this. If there was, I would be a millionaire because I would be selling it to people. It's just doing monotonous tasks, having monotonous conversations, having it's John Cheplack, who's one of my coaches, says, if you want a sexy life, you better get used to a boring life. And that really resonates with me because my days look very, very repetitive. They're the same thing over and over again because I know what works. And I resist the temptation to go for the next shiny object. I know what to say no to. And I know that if I just focus on doing the right thing will happen. It may not happen today. It may not happen tomorrow, but it's impossible for me to keep doing the right thing and the right thing not happen eventually. And then the final thing I want to say, and I will open up to questions because I think you guys will probably have some, is one thing that's really changed the course of my real estate career. And I'm glad that the word was mentioned in that video that John played, is accountability. And I think there's a really, really poor misunderstanding of accountability in this industry. I think that when people hear accountability, or at least in my experience, you think of when you didn't clean your bedroom, so your mom said you don't get ice cream. And people think that's accountable. In my world, what accountability looks like is love. And so what it is me holding you to the standard that you said you wanted for yourself to achieve the goals that you said you wanted to achieve. And so we get up here quarterly. We do an exercise called Go to the Board, and we will stand up and we will declare in front of the rest of the team how many homes we're going to sell for the year. Okay, that's your number. You own it. We will pass it back to the team and say, okay, Shane said he's going to close 46 this year. What do you guys think? And some people say, yeah, you know what? I don't know, man. Like, you only closed 12 last year, man. How do you think you're going to close 46 this year? Like, where's that difference coming from? We'll have an honest conversation about it, and Shane will settle on his number. Shane will then choose the one thing he's going to do daily that's measurable to make sure he gets his 46. Okay. In our world, it's normally 2-minute conversations or phone calls. We will then ask the team if we think that's a reasonable amount of input to get the results that he wants. And again, we'll have honest conversations about it. Someone will say, I don't know, Susan, you're saying you're going to close 50 deals this year, but you're going to make 20 calls a day. I closed 40 last year and I'm making 70 a day. So to me, that math doesn't math. I just want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Maybe you're much better on the phone than me, but I just want to point that out, that in my world, that doesn't look like it's doable. Right? So then they'll come up with their one commitment that they're going to do. And then we're going to say, what are we doing this for? Because I'll tell you, if the reason for you getting out of bed and doing monotonous things on a day-by-day basis isn't powerful enough to drive you through the times that you don't want to do it, because we can all do the things we don't want to do on the days we actually do want to do them. But can we do the things we don't want to do on the days we don't want to do them? And this is how I kind of frame this is, in my world, my wife, Sarah, had a very aggressive form of cancer about 7 or 8 years ago when we were dating. Everybody that was in her support group with her at the time has unfortunately passed. She was a miracle where she discovered it early enough and was able to have the surgery and get it removed. And we're very thankful and blessed that was the case. My life revolves around making sure that she is able to experience the life that she wants to experience, and everything is provided for her that she needs, because her life is a miracle and a blessing. So if I tell her that we're going to go to England and Italy in September, which we're planning to do, I don't get up and do the stuff that I need to do every single day. I wake up today and I'm like, I don't want to make those phone calls to recruit those agents because, God, I'm just not feeling it. Mm-hmm. My business is not going to be where it needs to be. Now, probably I can go home to Sarah and say to her, hey, honey, listen, I know we were going to go to Italy and England this September, but the market's tough. Things are just not going the way I really wanted them to. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. And she loves me so much that she's going to turn around to me and say, honey, that's okay. Don't worry. I know you tried your best. We'll go next year. Problem is, I didn't try my best. Mm-hmm. So if I reframe that conversation as having to stand up to her and say, hey, honey, I know we were going to go back to England and Italy in September. I told you I was going to do all these things, but you know what? I was a coward. And I just woke up some mornings and just didn't really want to do it. So we're not going to be able to go on that trip. That conversation with her is likely going to go a little bit different than the first one did. Normally, our partners cannot be our accountability partners because they love us too much to really hold our feet to the fire. But a great team leader or a great mentor will observe what you're doing without judgment, because I truly believe that everyone's doing the best they can do with everything they have going on in their life at that period of time. There's normally obstacles in the way that we can't see. And so the question I ask to my people is, what did you commit to? Did you do the thing? If you didn't, what got in the way? In the realm of all things that are possible, could you still have done it? Mm-hmm. If the answer is yes, how do we make sure that we can overcome those obstacles going forward? Do we want to recommit to it again? And what support do you need from me to make that happen? That's what accountability looks like in my world, rather than saying, hey, John, you didn't make your 100 calls today, dude. What the hell's going on with you, man? Right? Two totally different conversations. So I would seek out somebody in your world who is able to hold you accountable to the things that you've committed to doing to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Because I will tell you, if you find that person and you're able to have that relationship where there's tension in the relationship in the right way, that is an absolute game changer, not only in your business, but in your personal life. Because everything that you have in your personal life going on privately will one day show up in your business and what you're doing professionally. It's impossible to split the two of them up. So make sure your life is right at home. Make sure you have someone that can drive you and hold you accountable in the right way to the commitments that you make to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. The fact that you guys are on this call tells me that you guys are already capable of being in the top echelon of what you do because you're willing to be held accountable daily on these calls. So awesome job, everybody. I'll open up the floor to some questions. Nothing is off limits. I'm an open book. Anything you guys want to ask me, I will give you an absolute honest answer.
So guys, let's get our hands up. That was amazing. Pages of notes, Ross. And man, it's been a while since you and I have spoke. And one of the things that I was thinking of as I was listening to you speak is this is a different Ross Hardy than I knew 16 years ago. You've changed.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. You know, your dad's got to be so proud of you. You know, I know Ross's father really well. Good guy. Man, you were just dropping bombs.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I see Linda's questions. Let me jump on that one real quick. Linda's asking, what's your profit margin on a large team like yours? That's a really, really great question, Linda. I don't have a short answer for it, but let me give you kind of like the answer that will hopefully frame this correctly for you. In my experience, what I found is the larger the team grows and the higher the volume grows, the lower the profit margin gets in general. You go through these little peaks and valleys where, you know, you reach a certain transaction count and then all of a sudden you have to hire another transaction coordinator. You have to hire another listing coordinator. All of a sudden the profit margin takes a little tank and then you can add 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 agents, get the economies of scale before it kind of breaks down again. I would tell you in our best months, we're running at about 20, 22% profit. That is inclusive of being a Zillow Flex team. So we're sometimes paying 30, 40% off the top on those. We don't break those out and say, well, that's not a cost of goods sold. We include that in our cost of goods. Some months, you know, January is always a absolute bloodbath on our P&L. Because we know that that's going to be our quietest month of the year for closings. And, you know, quite frankly, sometimes in those months, we've lost 20, 30 grand in a month. But we know it's a seasonal thing. It's going to be a one-off on the P&L. We don't want to scale back on our marketing because we know that if we do that and let our foot off of the gas, we're going to pay for it in the months that are ahead of us. So we've tracked that very, very closely over the last 4 or 5 years. When we've actually done that, we've seen negative impact on our business in April, May, June. So we keep our foot on the gas during those months and just accept the hit. But I will tell you that, you know, typically a good month for us would be around 20, 22%.
There's questions in the chat, Ross. Guys, if you put your hands up, it'll be easier for us to make sure we're not missing your questions. Michelle Hendricks, great question, by the way, if we've got hands up. So I'm going to go there first, but come back to that question. Joe, you're up. Jack, you're on deck. Victoria, you're in the hole. Let's go.
All right, two-part question. So the first part is, when you got into the business, knowing what you know now, what truth did you believe back then that it has turned out to be false? And then the second one is, given the fact that you've been in the industry for 21 years, if you could go back and tell that same you or that younger guy that's only been in, say, 1 to 3 years, 5 years, what one piece of advice would you give them that would significantly change the trajectory of their business?
Yeah, great question, Joe. Thanks for that. So the one piece that I thought would be true and turned out not to be is that if I did a great job by somebody, they would come back and use me again. That will happen as long as you stay in touch with them and are in front of them at the exact moment that you need to be at the moment they need someone in real estate. I forget what the statistic is, but it's a horrendously low number of people that reuse the same agent from one transaction to the next. So that's something that I just figured, if I do a great job, they're mine, they're a client for life. That is most certainly not the case. I still get those moments where I drive past a house that I've sold and I see the for sale sign. It still gives me a sinking feeling in my stomach, but my aim is always to close that gap. And then the second thing, what would I give advice to? At the moment, I'm really, really bullish playing in sandboxes where other people can't buy leads. So in my world, that's YouTube. I know if I pump out YouTube content, there's certain people that are never going to go on a website, click on fill out a form. They're never going to call an agent from Zillow. They're never going to do this, that, and the other, but they're going to watch videos on YouTube in the research phase. And that's a great trust builder. On average, my videos are watched for about 5 minutes and 27 seconds. 57% of the time it's on a television. So you're going to have a really tough time convincing me that someone that's watching 5.5 minutes of my video about what it's like to live in Spring Hill, Florida on their TV with their partner in the evening is not going to call me when the time comes for them to move to Spring Hill, Florida, and nobody can buy those leads anywhere. So for me, it's looking in the areas of where are other people not able to play that I can play. And I'm playing the long game on something like that. So I just moved house last weekend. The primary reason we moved is so I can build a YouTube studio in my house so that I can pump out 3 times as much content as I'm doing currently, because I'm not ready to move on to the next thing until I've got all of the juice out of the lemon on this.
It's great stuff. Jack Buchanan, let's go.
Wow. Yeah, so 2-part question. Number 1 is, what did your daily schedule look like in the midst of your career? And then number 2, what was some of the non-negotiables you had on a daily level that you found most helpful for you?
Yeah, awesome. So typically when I was really heavy in production, my first hour, I was never able to commit 2 hours to it. That's just on the real. My first hour would be my prospecting time. My second hour would be into my customer follow-up. So making sure my escrows, my listings are all running smooth. I would really, really try and pump out 3 pieces of social media content per day. 1 business, 1 personal, 1 inspirational. So I would go on and make sure I have those. You only have to be a day ahead. You're not going to plan it out for the week. You just got to get it out for that day. I would always try and have lunch or coffee with somebody. I would normally do that probably 3 days a week. I would be around about my average. And then my appointment block was in the afternoon. So I will tell you, in those days, I did a horrible job of being present for my family. I had a really eye-opening moment when we were talking about character traits for one of my son's school projects on a book he was reading. And I was trying to explain to him what a character trait was as opposed to a physical trait. And I said to him, use me as an example. What would be a character trait? And he said, my dad works really hard. And I was like, man, I was really hoping you'd come up with something different. I was funny, or I was caring or loving. It really kind of made me shift my priorities, whereby now we have the kids because we're a blended family. So we only have the kids some of the time. I don't take appointments after 5:30. I'm always present and home for dinner. If they have sporting events, that's the number 1 priority in my calendar. So yes, it's important to have a structure and go all in for what you're passionate about, but don't forget the other things you're passionate about as well. And make sure that you're spending the appropriate time on those.
Okay, great stuff. Guys, we have time for 2 more questions. And Rich Tomasini, if it's okay, did I lose Rich? Oh, there you are. I want you to jump in here as well. So Victoria, Michelle, and then Rich. Ross, can you hang in here for maybe 2?
Yeah, I've got as much time as you need, my friend.
Maybe 5. All right, let's go, Victoria.
Okay, I won't be so long-winded. My question is more, when you bring agents into your team, what is the standard you require from them?
It's great. So if you're a new agent on our team, we pair you with a mentor. Basically, you have to be in the office for Monday trainings. You have to be on our huddle calls at 8 a.m. on weekday mornings, at least 3 days a week. Otherwise, you're not on lead rotation. You have to score 8,000 points a month in follow-up boss, not inclusive of appointments, to be on lead rotation. You have to attend all meetings on time. That's our 8 a.m. Monday Zoom and our bi-weekly Wednesday in the office. Otherwise, you don't get leads. And then the mentor will ramp them up for 25 calls a day for the first week, 50 calls a day the second week, 75 calls a day the third week, and 100 calls a day on the fourth week.
That was priceless. Michelle.
So this is, I guess, an extension of what you answered as far as early on in your career, but what does a repeatable day look like for you now as a leader prospecting successfully? And what is your conversion rate?
Yeah, it's awesome. So my prospecting now is based around agent recruiting. So for me, it's kind of 3-pronged approach, call it like the land, sea, and air. So I'm sending out 2 emails a week to an agent database that I've built over the years, where I'm giving out real estate advice. So I call it my 1-minute tip of the week. And again, this is so pertinent to you guys. What we consider to be dumb advice or normal stuff is extraordinary to somebody else. So I'm just giving out simple tips on real estate. People are like, oh my God, that's so good. So my 1-minute tips in the email. I also have a non-branded, brand agnostic social channel where I'm pumping stuff out on there. And then that makes those phone conversations a little bit easier, right? So I can find out who's clicking on my emails I can reach out to them and be like, hey, John, I've been sending out my 1-minute tip of the week videos. Not sure if you've been getting them. I do know you've been getting them. I'm going back in the studio on Friday to record some more tips. Is there anything you're struggling with in your business that you think I can be of use to you with right now? Lean into that. I can give them a little 5-minute coaching call on the phone. My idea is to coach them better than their broker or team leader is coaching them, and give an experience of what it's like to be on the team before they join the team.
Right.
The conversion rate is low because it's just people don't pick up their phone. People skip out on appointments because they're worried about someone seeing them. So my conversion metrics are, what I would consider to be low. But we just onboarded 5 last month, got 3 more this month that we've onboarded so far. But, I know to be the number 1 team in Florida for Remax, I need 55 agents, 27 today. So there's still a ways to go.
Okay, Rich Tomasini, take us out.
Nice to meet you, Ross. That was a very earnest lesson for us. Thanks for sharing. I guess sort of a bifurcated question. Number 1 is, what are you going to do after you're number 1 in Florida? What happens after that? Because you'll move the needle and then you'll move the milestone probably if you're anything like the rest of us. And number 2 is, how do you prevent burnout for your team? Because obviously their income is correlated to their performance. They can have great years, but what's their long-term play on that? And how do you kind of psychologically guide them through those dark moments when you're in January, right?
Yes, absolutely. First thing is, what's beyond number 1 in Florida? That's a great question. I have some personal goals that I want to see happen. Business-wise, I think it probably looks like growing YouTube to be our number 1 lead source, which at the moment we're a Zillow Flex team, so it feels like an impossible task right now, but I'm 100% committed and dedicated to doing that. And then honestly, I know it sounds kind of, corny or whatever. I just want to help as many people as I can help. John, I think, knows my heart. It's very similar to his own, where I'm very brand agnostic. I was at a LPT event last week speaking about YouTube, just passing along the information. I feel, and John Cheplak's my coach, that's really a byproduct of him, is that I feel like I'm a vessel to pass along information to other people. Nothing that I do in real estate has been invented by me. It's all been passed down to me from somebody else. So I feel like I'm not doing my job correctly if I'm not giving back everything that I've learned to as many people as possible, because ultimately we all want better agents on the other side of the deal. So it doesn't matter if they're part of my team, part of my brokerage, part of my circle, part of my world. At some point or another, our worlds are going to collide. And I would rather be dealing with a competent agent than an incompetent one. And then the burnout part, I think, again, a lot of times we're really bad at sharing our experiences as team leaders, broker owners, real estate agents. And we present this image of everything being rosy and everything being great in our world. And we don't talk about our failures and our dark moments. And so I think the more that we can bring those to light and talk about, hey, listen, guys, like I remember when I was in your situation, and what I'm going to tell you now is going to seem like the opposite advice of what you need, but trust me, this is what you need to hear right now in this moment. So if you learn nothing else, please learn from my mistake. And then giving them what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes that is, listen, you got to step back and take a break, right? I've got an agent on my team who wants to close 100 deals this year. He closed 71 last year, and he'll probably close 100. And we go to the gym every morning at 5 o'clock together. And I said to him, I was like, dude, you got to take a vacation, man. Like, you got to take 3 or 4 days, turn your phone off and go and relax, because otherwise you're going to kill yourself doing this. And I know that you think every single day counts, but the way that you do your days counts just as much. So you need to be at 100% at the times you need to be foot on the gas. And I can see it in you, man. I can see that you're jaded. You had 4 drop out of escrow last week. Like, that's going to have an effect on you. Now, the speed at which you can recover from that's going to determine how successful you're going to be. You don't sit on it and sulk for 4 or 5 days, but this is a perfect time for you to just hit reset and get your mind right, come back 100% next week. The world's not going to collapse in the meantime. Like I said, take your foot off the gas and come back 100%.
Well, there you have it, everybody. Ben, Ross, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. I am happy to come back anytime you want me. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, my friend.
Incredible. Everybody give it up for Ross. That was absolutely amazing. For all of you, thank you for being here. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your journey. Continue the 85 of you on Survive to Thrive today. That's awesome. Keep inviting your friends. Let's grow the group. Go make it a great day, everybody.
Hundreds of agents have leveled up their systems and listings with Coach John's coaching. Your turn starts here. Scan the QR code to schedule your session.
And don't forget to subscribe and share this with someone who's serious about building long-term wealth in real estate.